Please stand for opening remarks, Pledge of Allegiance, from Councilmember Don Abbatiello.
I hope the following words of Ralph Waldo Emerson guide us tonight and in the meetings to come. Whatever course you decide upon, there is always someone to tell you that you are wrong. There are always difficulties arising which tempt you to believe that your critics are right. To map out a course of action and follow it to an end requires courage. Say pledge.
Pledge allegiance to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all.
Good evening, everyone. Do we have a motion to approve the minutes of the April 6th council meeting and the April 7th and 8th budget workshops?
So moved.
Second.
All in favor?
Aye.
Motion carried. The next item on there is items by members of the council. Mr. Silverstein?
I just want to once again thank all of those individuals who are out there working on our behalf, keep us safe, also provide groceries for us and other necessary services. And I want to especially say that I feel very deeply about those individuals who are not employed anymore as a result of COVID-19, and that they find the necessary strength and fortitude and help to get through this pandemic. A lot of us are suffering, and we need to stick together. Thank you.
Mr. Otel?
Mr. Silverstein said it all, so I'm good. Thanks.
Okay. Ms. Cook?
I have nothing to add.
Okay. Well, last meeting, I requested people honor the shelter in place and try to reduce clusters of people when you go out. Since then, the businesses in question have reached compliance. A few times I've been out, I've been impressed by the numbers of people who are taking precautions with social distancing and wearing masks. And finally, I'm sure by now most people are aware that the Talbot County COVID-19 numbers took a dramatic increase of over 50% this weekend. So this is not yet over. Okay, next order of business is a presentation of items by the mayor. Mayor Willie.
Yes, Mr. Engle, a couple of things. One is to remind the council that the May 4th meeting will include the budget public hearing. Able to get going on that, I have selected reading for each of you. It includes everything that'll be part of the budget, except my opening remarks, which are over to the Library of Congress being copyrighted as we speak. So you'll have all this to read, and if you have any questions in the next couple of weeks, please feel free to ask either Don or myself or Carol or Jill. Between the four of us, we'll come up with an answer that you need. Also, I'd like to say tonight that there will be no public access to the meetings in June, and hopefully the 1st of July we'll pick back up with or the 1st of June, we will pick up with the regular meeting format that we've had in the past. Hopefully. So with that, I would like to pass these out. Several hours of excitement.
You killed the forest with that.
Thank you, Mayor.
There's everything there from a copy of the budget, both revenue and capital and what have you, and also the
Thank you.
constant yield formula proclamation and the carryover.
Any questions for the mayor? Are you done, sir? Okay. Items from town manager, Mr. Richardson.
I have nothing specifically for the meeting tonight. However, I would like to give an update on bulk collection. We are getting a high level of volume of calls for bulk collection. So I just ask that our residents bear with us as we work through that process. We're using equipment that we wouldn't normally use to take care of that and dispose of it properly. Thank you very much.
Any questions for the town manager? Thank you, sir. Town attorney.
Just wanted to let you know about something hopefully that will be coming up in May, which is we hope to start the process for the Dutchman's Lane annexation in May. So we're working on the paperwork and stuff for that now with the county. coordinating with that, and hopefully we will have that together for May. That's all I have.
Any questions? Thank you. Next, we have a presentation to the council by the Chief David Spencer providing a COVID-19 update. Or it's,
Well, good evening, Mayor, Mr. Engle, council members. I'm not sure exactly what it is that you'd like for us to talk about tonight when we got the invitation, but there's a couple things that we can say. First of all, I'd like to certainly thank all the first responders that are out there, all the medical people, all the workers providing the food. You know, there's a lot of risk out there. There's a lot of concerns. There's a lot of unknown, and everybody, you know, is working well together. I'm happy to say that the citizens and the visitors to Easton are by and large complying with the governor's orders for distancing and for staying home and not going to the businesses, and the businesses are complying with the rules that are set upon them. You know, we're working with the businesses that we visit with complaints. They've all been responsive. We understand that they have concerns. It's their livelihood. If their business goes under, then they're worried about their employees and their families and how they're going to feed their people. So, you know, we understand that. Unfortunately, that's our responsibility, is to enforce the governor's orders, and we try to do that as fairly and as practically as we can, and work with them to meet an even line somewhere where we can all just kind of get along. By and large, our stats are down, March and April. I've been looking at them. The only two things that Eric and I have really noticed that are up are emergency petitions, mental evaluations. For the last 2 months, they've almost doubled over the preceding year. Not sure what that's attributed to. I don't know if staying home has caused that issue to rise or not. And our domestic violence complaints are down about 50%. We talked about that at one of the meetings that we have on the staff meetings in the morning. And some of the concerns from the professionals and through the Board of Education is that, you know, with people being locked into the house, being not locked, but being home with their families, they're not getting away, they're not going to work, they're not going to school. In the event that they are in a situation that they'd rather not be in or should not be in, they may not have the opportunity to speak out, to ask for the help. So I know that the schools are trying to reach out to the children, that if you're in a situation an unsafe situation, they're giving them ways to, you know, to respond to domestic violence. Professionals are reaching out to everybody. So we're all trying to do that. If there's somebody out there that's in a situation that they shouldn't be in, or they don't think is safe or uncomfortable, there are many avenues that they can reach out to, and there's people out there waiting to try and help them. So I hope that they're not staying home and suffering needlessly. And with that, I'm going to ask Sergeant Kellner to come up here. He was assigned March 23rd to the EOC at their request to act as the law enforcement liaison. And I have to tell you that we're very proud of Eric. He's been nothing but professional. We've got nothing but compliments. I know all of you are hearing on the calls coming in, and he's doing a great job. He's an asset to them at the EOC and a great reflection on the town of Easton and the Easton Police Department. So Eric can give you some more numbers and answer questions I can't.
Good evening. I appreciate the invite up here tonight, and also I want to thank Chief Spencer, Don Richardson, Mayor. Thank you for granting me the opportunity to go to the EOC and do some work. It's been a very eye-opening experience. I've learned a lot, and definitely feel like I'm contributing something to that. So I definitely appreciate the opportunity. So with that, the Chief spoke on a couple of statistics that I think are kind of important, and one thing he hit on was the emergency petitions or the mental health evaluations that have seemed to climb. And one thing working with the EOC is we're very tied into For All Seasons and some of our other mental health partners here in the community. And there's a lot of anxiety amongst patients in that realm about what's going on, which is maybe a cause of some of our uptick in our mental health evaluations. And another thing that the EOC's assisted on just today was we had a meeting with Ellen Grunden with the State's Attorney's Office and Midshore Council on Family Violence. And we're actually going to start putting a label or sticker on some of these meals that we're passing out at the food pantries and food distributions with a phone number so that people see that and have a connection that they can reach out if they feel like they're in trouble and need some sort of assistance. The EOC, I really didn't know exactly what it was. I've heard about it for a long time, but they're definitely a good group of people. It's all about communication, bringing the proper people together to address specific issues, and bringing the resident experts together, and then all coming collaboratively together to come up with a solution. And I always thought of it as an emergency services focused, fire, police, and EMS. But it's really, we've got working groups that do feeding. They handle all the feeding of the students that are in school. So we have people thinking about that kind of thing. That's not something as a police officer I would immediately think about. But we have those people doing that. We have people spiritually think about how we're reaching out to people for religion aspects and needs. So it's really a all-encompassing group, and we're just there to assist in any way that we can.
Eric, is there any area where the council may assist you further in what you're doing, what you're trying to do?
I don't think so. Right now, the first 2 weeks were very hectic, trying to get everything together, come up with these ideas, and get these working groups going. But I'll tell you, we've got some really good leadership in the county and here locally. And by leadership, I'm not talking about elected officials necessarily, but people that have connections to some of these food pantries, for example, that are setting up these feeding groups and working groups. And out here in the business sector that are really stepping up to assist. So right now, once we got all the kinks worked out initially, I think now it's kind of rolling right along, and we're just there to assist as needed.
The EOC is Emergency Operations Center, is that?
That's correct.
That's
yeah.
correct.
So the EOC always exists. The county Department of Emergency Services has a emergency manager that is full-time. Her name's Geneva. And she's always there to pre-plan for events that you might not think about. Terrorism, coming up with a plan, how the county's going to react to something like that. But once an incident occurs, they kind of ramp up. And you may hear them say at the meetings that they're at an enhanced level. So what that means is they brought in people to staff certain positions, and they're staffing that EOC with multiple positions, 5 days a week right now, and then on call on weekends. So
Initially, we were doing 7-day-a-week calls. I know I'm on the call as well as the mayor and Don, and some council members are sitting in on those. But now we're down to 3 days a week, correct?
I think so, yeah, because like I said earlier, initially it was just trying to get everything in place, so we needed that communication, but now that things are pretty well established, and I don't know about you, but I'm on sometimes 5-6 conference calls a day, so they can get overwhelming. So I think it's really met the need, breaking down, giving us a little bit of a break, meeting every morning at 10 o'clock and kind of rehashing the same thing over again. So I think it's worked out well, and we'll adjust as the need occurs.
And I would mention on the business side, every Tuesday and Friday, Cassandra Van Hooser hosts a business call and brings some folks in to talk to businesses. We also have Dr. Frida Wadley, the health officer, and Clay Stamp from the county. But if people are interested, they can contact Cassandra, and she will give you the number to be able to dial in and participate. I think we usually have about 60 to 70 people on those calls.
Yeah, it's a really productive call, and a lot of it is out of my field of play, but I try to offer from a law enforcement standpoint directives to, for example, the new mask order. I spoke to the group about the expectations, the executive order, kind of explained what our response to that would be, asking them for their cooperation. So I just try to be there as an asset to them. The food pantries, try to figure out traffic direction or what the law enforcement needs are potentially for these different events. So that's what I'm there for from a law enforcement perspective, and obviously a liaison to the local law enforcement. We do a call 3 days a week between all the local agencies, the sheriff and the state police, and we have a roundtable discussion on any issues that we're dealing with, and I kind of get that together. And then I'm helping with other jobs that aren't at all law enforcement related, like helping manage the website and managing the social media page and all that kind of stuff. So I just kind of do whatever they ask me to do.
Thank you
Pick up
very
lunch.
much for your service.
If I could just add one thing to what Eric is talking about is, and maybe dispel some of the rumors that are going around. We're not out actively looking for violations of the governor's order. Obviously, if we see a violation, then we'll talk to the individual, we'll talk to the business owner. It's the Talbot County Health Department is the one that has been tasked by the governor and the state to actually going around and conducting the inspections of the businesses to make sure that they're complying. So if we come to your business, it's most likely because we got a complaint from a citizen or from somebody, and that's why we're there to check it out. And there's something that needs to be reported, we typically report that either to the state police or to the health department for further action. And Eric can give you the numbers, I think, on how many complaints that we've had. But when the officers aren't responding to that, you know, a lot of our calls for service are down, a lot of the traffic's down. So what we're trying to do is be very visible in the community. You know, doing a lot of PC checks and being into the neighborhoods, just trying to give comfort to the citizens. You know, when they see the police car ride by, you know, I've tried to encourage the officers, just the sight, just seeing you be out there talking to the citizens, let them see the car. That's a comfort to them, because right now there's a lot of concern, a lot of issues, and a lot of worry. You know, so it's a good opportunity for us to be out there and provide some solace to the kids and to the family when they see us ride by. So if you want to
Yeah, and I think the chief would agree that, you know, this is definitely uncharted waters for us in law enforcement. I never thought in my career I would ever have to go ask a business to close or break up a 10-person party and kick them off the playground, you know. So it's definitely an issue we're dealing with. As the chief spoke about, since March 1st up until today, the Easton Police Department has conducted 927 patrol checks and community checks over that time period to show our visibility. So I think that's a pretty substantial number. We've attended to 27 violation of executive orders throughout the town. Part of my job down there is to report to the state, and I report for all the agencies in the county violations that we've responded to through a website. And 11 of those were for gathering violations of the 10 or more. They were about 50-50 residential and or out in public at a park or something similar to that. 15 business violations that we've responded to, and 1 issue for a stay-at-home order. So again, for a total of 27. So I think that's a pretty low number. We're not overwhelmed with it right now, so we're appreciative of that.
Chief, can I ask you to come back up? I've got a question for you. Noticing that the governor now has started to release prisoners from state custody, do you know if any of the counties are doing the same thing from local jails?
I know that all of the jails around the state are looking which prisoners they can release, which ones are eligible to be released early, so they're trying to let a lot of those go. I don't know exactly, I haven't heard from the warden how many have been released from Tulsa County, but throughout the state I know that throughout the country, there's a drive to try to get a lot of the less violent criminals out of the jails and back out onto the street.
So do you anticipate an uptick in criminal activity as a result of that?
I don't think so, because I think they're really looking closely at the type of person that they're letting out, and the types of crimes that they've committed, and how long they've been in jail, and what the likelihood is of them committing another crime. Okay. So if they were to let out a serious offender, they would let us know that that person's been released, particularly if somebody has a felony record or they're still going to be on parole and probation. They typically let us know that, so we can kind of keep an eye on those individuals.
Thank you.
But we haven't seen an uptick in the crime, and they've been letting them out ever since the last month.
I've just had some questions from some of my constituents, so I thought I'd ask that. Thank you.
And I'd like to say that the notification you put on Facebook about what your policies were was significant. I know I got stopped a number of times in my community. Some of the people, they were walking outside, as though we're going to get locked up for walking outside. And there's a lady who lives across the street from her. Her neighbor lives about 4 blocks away, and she's worried she'd get arrested for coming over and so they can walk to the golf course and stuff. So they were significantly relieved to see that that's really what's going on. And they seem small to you, but for some of the people that are sitting at home, got nothing to do but worry, it's a big deal.
So information's a funny thing. It can work for you, it can work against you. And when you're trying to get compliance, sometimes people having a little bit of anxiety about going outside because of the police, well, maybe that's not a bad thing, I don't know. But, you know, we want to be, we want to put our policies out there so people understand what we're doing. You know, I don't think any police officer takes any pleasure in shutting down business or telling them people they have to go into their house. I certainly don't. We just try to use our best judgment, follow the executive orders, and, you know, just be humanitarians.
And clearly the message that we've been getting from the governor way on down every day is this is preventative measure. You know, we're not looking to lock people up, you know, to punish people. There's enough going on in their life now without having to criminal charges against them. So the message is going out there, and particularly the Hispanic community, has always had a concern about, calling the police responding, whether or not that they'd be deported and those kinds of things. So we really need the Hispanic community to pay attention to what's going on and not be concerned. We talked about that again today, that we're not looking to deport them. We're looking for them to be safe and to keep their families and children safe, and they shouldn't be afraid if they have symptoms to come forward, because the objective is to make them well and put them back out, into society. So.
Yeah, the Hispanic community's really taken a hit. They've had a couple hot spots or outbreaks, I guess I should say, in the poultry industry, as well as the nursery industry. That was reported today, which generally employs a lot of migrant workers. So because of the communication barriers and the lack of health care, and the fact that they work very closely together in large plants, is significant. Caroline County's seen an uptick. Wycomico County, a lot of these places that have these poultry processing plants are seeing those numbers tick up. But the numbers increased, as you mentioned, over the weekend greatly, but there's so many variables in that. The lack of testing. Today, the governor announced that he had acquired 500,000 test kits. I'd be interested to see how that's deployed and utilized. But up until now, we've had very limited testing throughout the state. And once those tests go away to private labs, sometimes it can take almost 2 weeks to get those results back. So we're getting a lot of those results that were done 2-3 weeks ago back to us, and now we're finally getting those numbers to report on. So the data can be a little skewed, but I think it's important to remember that a lot of people could have had the virus and be asymptomatic, not displaying any symptoms, or very mild symptoms, and not think that they actually have it. But in turn, they're out there and they're spreading it around unknowingly, so it's important to remember.
Thank you. We appreciate you guys coming and enlightening us. No news is good news.
Thank you very much for having me. Appreciate it.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Next thing I want to discuss, if we need to set a budget public hearing for May the 4th at 7:15 p.m. Okay, next order of business, ordinance number 747. It's an ordinance of the town of Easton authorizing the town of Easton to purchase lot 9A Bryan's Drive in the town of Easton. This was opened for comments in the last meeting, and we have received none. Are there any questions with respect to this ordinance? Ms. Ruff, you want to run a roll call to see where we are?
Motion. Do we have to take a motion?
Second.
In favor? Motion carried.
Mr. Silverstein?
Aye.
Mr. Abbatiello?
Yes.
Mr. Engle?
Yes,
Mrs. Cook?
Yes.
motion carried. Okay. Looking for the last thing I've got here. I guess there are no questions from the public.
We'll take those until Friday if there were any that needed to be written in.
Okay. All right, last thing I've got is a motion for adjournment.
So moved.
Second.
All in favor?
Aye.
Aye. Any